Deep in the heart of South America lies one of the most spectacular secrets of the natural world. Iguacu, one of the planet's largest waterfalls. It's a fearsome display of the raw power of water, but it also has a gentler side. A vast and continuous cloud of fine spray rises up over the surrounding trees. This refreshing moisture nurtures a very special section of rainforest, a biological hotspot for some of South America's most amazing animals. But Iguacu National Park is a refuge fighting for survival. Dedicated teams work tirelessly to guard it from poachers and illegal loggers. Drastic action is needed. But this is a hard place to police. In the wet season, Iguacu can have up to 300 individual falls draining from the hundreds of kilometers of surrounding forest. Can this magical place be saved? Around 120 million years ago, the rupture of the supercontinent of Pangaea led to the creation of Africa and South America. Lava bursting through hardened into giant blocks of fine-grained basalt. This is the rock from which the Iguacu waterfalls have been sculpted grain by grain. Basalt is such a hard rock that it erodes very slowly, leaving behind a line of cliffs up to 82 meters tall. At 1.7 miles long, Iguacu's horseshoe-shaped falls are nearly 3 times the size of Niagara. In the wet season, enough water flows over the edges every day to supply the city of London for more than a year. The torrent could drag you to your death, but great dusky swifts fly right through it. Behind the wall of water, they are safe from predators. Most other animals have to make do with the spray-drenched forest which surrounds the falls. Tucked away some 15 meters up in the canopy lives one of Iguacu's most successful mammals, the ring-tailed coati, a relative of the raccoon. Every year, they produce a litter of up to 6 cubs. It's a risky place to raise young, but it's a lot safer than on the ground. Jaguars, the mightiest cats of the Western Hemisphere, still roam here, but they're in steep decline. Good news for the coatis, perhaps, but bad news for Iguacu National Park. These forests used to stretch back from most of Brazil's Atlantic coastline. Now, only 7% of this unique Atlantic rainforest is left. Iguacu, straddling the border between Brazil and Argentina, is one of the last refuges for the outstandingly rich and endemic wildlife of the area, known locally as the Mata Atlântica. In the 80s, Iguacu was given World Heritage status, but it was steeped in folklore long before this. A native legend tells of Naipe, daughter of a tribal chief, a girl so beautiful that the Iguacu River would stop to admire her. Taroba, a brave young warrior, fell in love with Naipe and won her heart. With each passing day, their feelings grew stronger. But the chief had already chosen Naipe to be sacrificed to honor their ruling serpent god, Mboy. The night before the sacrifice, the couple made their escape. Little did they know that the Godden boy was watching in fury. The waters raged with the god's wrath, and a gigantic gorge opened before them. Thus, the demise of Naipe and Taroba was the creation of the Falls of Iguacu. In what is now called the Devil's Gorge, it is said their spirits remain forever. Each spring, new life emerges from this bewitching place. Flocks of up to 3,000 swifts come here to breed. The birds clamber over each other as they attempt to show themselves off to best advantage. On these precipitous cliffs, the ability to hang on might be the most attractive trait of all. Despite their numbers at the falls, they've been little studied, and their courtship behaviors aren't fully understood. The acrobatics continue for several days on both sides of the cascade. Until, eventually, the birds pair off. But nothing about life on the falls is easy. The female allows the male to court her, but often rejects him over and over. He offers her some useful nesting material for her hard basalt hollow, but even that doesn't do the job. The flirting eventually pays off, and it's time for the flying circus to begin family life. While the swifts are just starting to build their nests, the baby coatis are growing too boisterous to stay inside theirs. They're 3.5 weeks old and getting a taste for adventure. The mother has 2 more weeks teaching them the ropes on her own. Like their mother, the babies need to become excellent climbers. It's vital for finding food, but also for escaping from predators. For now, though, it's one step at a time. Despite the occasional mishap, the youngsters quickly cotton on. Long tails help to balance, while strong, sharp claws grasp the bark as they literally hang on for their lives. And if they ever lose their nerve, help and encouragement is at hand. After about 6 weeks isolated with their young, mother coatis reassemble into large social groups that can number more than 60 individuals. Even after short periods apart, coatis exchange excitable greetings and groom each other. At last, relief from looking after the kids. Mothers take turns running a creche. Some go off looking for food, while others watch over the unruly cubs. Iguacu appears idyllic, but scientists in the park fear that many treasures have already been lost. There is little knowledge of life in the forest beyond the falls. Both Brazilian and Argentine scientists are working hard to put that right. Ricardo Melziu is part of a special jaguar project funded by several government departments. They've discovered that in the last 15 years, Iguacu's jaguar population may have suffered an 8-fold decrease in numbers. Researchers use cameras to spy on these elusive predators. An infrared sensor is tripped by passing animals, producing snapshots of jaguars' secret lives. These can tell Ricardo and the team a good deal.
We use the camera traps to track the cats, especially the spotted ones like the jaguar. Each jaguar has unique spot patterns, like fingerprints. So based on those, we can tell exactly how many individuals there are.
Back at the lab, the researchers face the challenge of interpreting all their data. Do Iguazu's most powerful feline predators stand any chance of survival? Ilaria Agostini thinks the evidence from photos, feces and footprint casts all points one way.
Jaguars are disappearing, first and foremost because of hunting. There are many records of jaguars killed by poachers who shoot them in order to sell their skin, or just for the thrill of killing a jaguar.
But the most recent snaps offer some encouragement. They've identified a male-female pair. Extremely good news, as the park population is estimated at a mere 12 individuals. Maybe this pair will breed. But it's not just jaguars that scientists want to protect. This is a special bird, in its element at Iguacu. The snail kite depends on water to supply its main food source, juicy amphibious apple snails. The kite may eat as many as 70 snails a day, so it regularly patrols the fast-flowing water. Some rapids are too powerful for fishing, though the kite seems able to cope with the strong currents at the edge of the falls. Few birds of prey are this specialized. The ultra-rounded beak is perfectly shaped for scooping out and lacerating the muscle tissue that binds snail to shell. With the rainy season underway, activity around the falls is hotting up. Red-rumped caciques are well into a huge nest-building program. The males do the hard graft, and the females keep tabs on them. An elaborate series of knots secures the long teardrop-shaped nests to the tree. With dozens of couples living in a single tree, the occasional dispute is unavoidable. Desperate to finish in time, a cacique may steal a neighbor's supplies to get ahead. But community life has its advantages. Large colonies mean better protection when the nests host precious offspring. After the clamor from the cacique colony subsides, yet another of Iguazu's residents joins the wait for a new generation. A mother caiman listens carefully. Nearby, her nesting mound contains up to 60 eggs. This is the sound she's been waiting for. The babies synchronize their emergence by calling to each other while still inside the egg. The mother caiman has protected this mound for 90 days. Now, by hatching all at once, her babies have further reduced each individual's chances of being picked off by monkeys, lizards, or birds. The hatchlings head directly towards water, where they will remain under their mother's guard for several months. But tonight, they've been spotted. Fortunately, they're being hunted by park biologists, carrying out their annual caiman census. Just as jaguars can tell scientists about the overall health of the forests, broad-snouted caiman numbers are a good indicator of water quality in the park. Caiman are very vulnerable to pollution. The main threat to them, however, comes from people. Many caiman are hunted for meat, but the broad-snouted caiman is especially targeted for its unique skin, used to make fine leather goods. When Justo Herrera and the Argentine National Park team began the study 10 years ago, the caiman population was alarmingly low.
The drop in the caiman population was due to heavy poaching in the area. Now there are more park rangers on patrol. This seems to have deterred hunters, letting the population begin to recover.
These are small but hopeful signs for Iguacu's future. The swifts are also doing well. If the sun is shining, the swifts will be on the wing. It's summer, and temperatures have risen by around 10 degrees Celsius. The mist cloud creates a superhumid microclimate around the falls, but the swifts have the ultimate antidote for the oppressive heat. The high-pressure showers are not only cooling, they help rid the birds of parasites. Feathers need to be in top condition for their aerial stunts and long hours on the wing. The swifts compete for the nooks and crannies under the falls, which will make the best nest sites. Nest building is soon underway. Materials include plants, feathers, and moss from all around the falls. But it's their own saliva that will help glue the nest to the slippery rock. In the carefully prepared crevice, the swift lays just a single egg, guarded with utmost care. Virtually no nest predator can get up here, so the swifts have no need to reproduce in great quantity. The egg takes an unusually long time to hatch, possibly because of the chilly conditions in the dank hollows. Nearby, the 3-month-old coati cubs have become intrepid explorers. They're nimble climbers now, and growing fast, which means they're in constant search of food. But their playful antics can also put them into grave danger. It's not wise to annoy some of their jungle neighbors. The South American rattlesnake is one of the most poisonous of the rattlers. Its venom can easily kill a human, let alone a young coati. But when hot on a scent, The cubs often take little notice of other creatures around them. The bone-chilling rattle should be enough to send anyone running. But young coatis are both naive and curious. The rattle is the warning. Provoking it is a deadly game to play for the youngsters. Its neurotoxic venom invades and disrupts the victim's nervous system. The coati cubs survive another day. But the fate of Iguacu as a whole remains less certain. Iguacu is a large island of rainforest surrounded by a huge sea of farmland. The long-term impact of the encroaching areas remains to be seen. In a pioneering expedition to find out more, scientists are penetrating deep into the little-known heart of Iguacu and the pristine Floriano River. This is as far as the chopper will take them. The team is led by National Park biologist Alcides Rinaldi and visiting specialist Carolina Hibas. They hope to find traces of the giant river otter, a species native to the area, whose current status is unknown. They're accompanied by Adaildo Policeno, who once made his living as a poacher. For team leader Rinaldi, this is unknown territory.
This expedition is a rare chance to explore an area where very few people have ever set foot. It's totally remote, closed off to visitors. So it can give us a look at how this whole region must have been long ago.
Some of the local inhabitants are agitated by the group's arrival. These are so-called killer bees, a dangerous hybrid descended from escaped African bees, originally brought to Brazil for honey production. Their aggressive nature and the number of stings sustained by the team threatens to end the expedition before it's even started. The river offers an escape from the harmful bees and the oppressive summer heat. The group heads off as quickly as possible. The biologists are looking out for any signs of the 1.8-meter-long giant otter. But expert Carolina Hibas believes this part of the river isn't quite right.
I think there's too much current here for this to be a giant otter habitat. The water is very clear and there aren't many large fish. So far we've seen a lot of common river otter marks, but no sign of any giant otter. I'm hopeful though.
It's so remote here that it's possible to see very rare animals. Even the fugitive jaguar can prowl here in relative safety. The name jaguar comes from the indigenous word yaguara, meaning the beast that kills his prey in one leap. So even large mammals must remain vigilant in this dense forest. Excellent hearing and a keen sense of smell will help keep this tapir out of trouble. The Brazilian or lowland tapir has a unique crest along the back of its neck, thought by some scientists to be a protection from jaguar attacks. Its ancestry links it to the primitive horse and the rhino. Despite appearances, tapirs are good runners and have extremely tough skin. If frightened or attacked, they will rush into water to escape. A 200-kilogram tapir would be several days' worth of food, but only an experienced jaguar would succeed in bringing one down. Most jaguars don't get that far. Along the rivers in the Iguacu heartland are some of the greatest concentrations of butterflies on Earth, rivaling the spectacle of the Amazon rainforest. Scientists reckon that there may be over 800 different species in the park, but so far only 257 have been identified. They gather in huge numbers on damp ground because these are the best places to absorb essential salts and minerals. Unfurling their straw-like tongues, they suck up huge amounts of water. Inside their bodies, the necessary minerals are filtered out, and the surplus river water is steadily flushed out at the other end. These gatherings are almost exclusively male, and it's competitive. The males pass their mineral strength to the female when they mate, so filtering more water now will increase the chances of passing on his genes. Along the nearby Floriano River, the search for the giant otter continues. The team has paddled and hacked its way through a 25-mile obstacle course. Finally, they reach the place where ex-hunter Adaído Policeno remembers seeing a giant otter 6 years ago.
Na verdade, a gente está abaixo do segundo salto, acima do primeiro salto. Eu vi o bicho.
Here, between the first and second waterfalls, I saw a giant otter sitting on this rock. He was looking up in that direction. The water was high, and he was sitting right here, eating a fish. It caught my attention because he had a white mark here.
Was it near its mouth or on the chest?
More on the chest.
Historically, giant otters were easier to find in the rivers of Iguacu. Social and gregarious, they live and hunt in packs, earning them the nickname of water wolves. But in recent decades, sightings became fewer and fewer, until in the late 1980s, the otters seemed to disappear altogether. Along the banks, Carolina Hibas and the team find only traces of the smaller, common otter.
Right here we found some common otter mucus. They use it to mark their territory. Look at this here. Here on the bank you can see really clearly where the otters have left claw marks.
There's an otter's halt, but it also belongs to a common otter. The whereabouts of its elusive giant cousin remain a mystery. The Floriano River starts and ends on protected land, making it one of the purest waterways in Iguacu. If the giant otter is to be found anywhere, it should be here. They check each stretch of the river for likely spots.
We've reached the part of the Floriano River that's deeper and calmer than any of the sections we've encountered so far. It's around 4.5 feet deep. That means there are probably more fish here, which would make it a more likely place to find giant otters. Unfortunately, we haven't found any traces of them yet.
Not finding a single sign is a disheartening end to the expedition. Giant otters are very sensitive to pollution. Could contaminants from the surrounding farmland have already seeped into the park? It's a reminder of how easily the balance of nature in this island of rainforest can be upset. The arrival of the annual rains can be quite disruptive too. some animals benefit from the extra food on offer. But a violent rainy season raises river levels at an alarming rate. Recently, Iguacu experienced intense rainfall. The flow over the falls reached a staggering 17,000 cubic meters per second, one of the highest since records began. Normally, the falls provide unparalleled protection for the great dusky swifts. Now, the waters threaten to destroy this year's brood and take down the adults too. Life becomes both a matter of endurance and luck. Here, the river has risen an incredible 20 meters, nearly swallowing some of the falls. The swifts are resilient, and within days they are back in action, rebuilding their lives. The coatis take the rainy season in their stride. Their life is spent high and dry. The coati diet is very varied, and much of what they need can be found in the trees. But they do get their feet on the ground to find protein-rich invertebrates, and their elongated upturned snout is ideal for rooting them out. For digging into the best bug hideaways, their climbing claws come into their own. This year's cubs are discovering that Iguacu's forests offer a fantastic variety of fruit. No wonder coatis are doing well here. They can get around quickly thanks to a reversible ankle joint, which gets them down trees head first. And they're learning fast, both from each other and their adult chaperones. For now, the pack travels as a group, but before the youngsters reach their third year, things will change. The females will stay with their mothers, but the males will have to peel off on their own. Young male coatis need to make the most of the precious time spent under their mother's wing. At sundown, when the coatis are tucked up, different characters emerge around the falls. On the forest floor, one of the true terrors of the night. Already the size of a human hand, the tarantula can take on prey even larger than itself. Hairs on the tarantula's body form an array of sensory hunting equipment. They allow it to detect heat, chemicals, and vibrations in the air. A perfect predator. Just one of the helpless blind mice would be a perfect meal, enough to satisfy the tarantula for several days. Babies everywhere are under threat. The nests at the cacique colony are now full of chicks. Adults are on full alert even before the first rays light up the forest. Red-rumped caciques have plumage to match their noisy nature. As the chicks begin to stir, their parents begin the daily grind to feed them. Some of the caciques have already lost chicks to predators, but many nests still contain 1, 2, or even 3 hungry mouths desperate for an insect breakfast. But they always keep an eye out for danger. Their enemy, the toko toucan, doesn't need camouflage. It's big and it's pushy. The combined efforts of the cacique colony are no real match. A cacique chick is just a protein supplement in the toucan's fruity diet. But in mere seconds, a cacique's season of labor is lost. The park authorities can also find their hard work undermined. Poachers are at work in Iguacu, and Brazilian and Argentine rangers join forces to root them out. Apolonio Rodrigues, vice president of the Brazilian park, scans the riverbank for any telltale signs of infiltration. Argentine head ranger Jorge Cieslik shares command. There's no telling what they might find. Poachers can be heavily armed. Rodrigues and Cieslik are sure they're on the right track.
Clearly there is a camp nearby. There is a path cleared that splits off. We know there is nothing in one direction, but in the other direction, it's likely that we'll find a camp. When we first got here,
we heard firecrackers when we got here. That's the accomplices warning them. So now we know they are in there.
But taking the suspects by surprise will not be easy. The rangers advance cautiously. In this remote patch of forest, there's no backup. The ambush is successful, but the rangers know that these are the little guys. Local people are poor. Hunting, although illegal, can bring in many times the minimum wage. The rangers collect up evidence, which includes some dangerous primitive weapons and the remains of a rare white-lipped peccary.
This is a homemade cannon, old-fashioned style. Our friends here set them up all around the park. This one's been well used already. They set up a wire, and when an animal trips it, he pulls the trigger here.
hunting has always been a problem in the park. It has increased because it's so lucrative. People no longer hunt just for themselves. They sell kills to dealers, or sometimes they work on special order for people in the area.
Now the park rangers themselves have to use increasingly radical and sometimes violent tactics. In this tranquil place, it seems to be the only way to give Iguacu's wildlife a fighting chance. Around the falls, the coati numbers have become more concentrated, maybe taking advantage of the decline in big cats such as the jaguar. The ground has become a much safer place for the young males to spar. This is practice, perhaps, for when they need to fight for the right to mate with females. Soon the young males will have to leave. Already, they are testing their independence. They've already started to build their own sleeping nests near the group. It's time to reaffirm friendships and settle in to replenish their energy for the adventures ahead. The worst of the rainy season is over, and the falls at Iguacu are back to normal. The swifts have recovered from the raging flood, and the single chicks are growing strongly. They're demanding little things, hungry for insects that the parents catch in mid-air. For weeks, the chick has observed its parents' fearless flight path, but that won't make its maiden plunge any less harrowing. Mum and Dad form a safety net while the chick tests its wings. Then comes the day of reckoning. The falls are a formidable place to live, a gated fortress to which only the swifts have the key. The Grand Falls of Iguacu are a world monument. That status has helped to protect the remnant of Atlantic rainforest that lies behind. It is sobering to think that without this fantastic spectacle, an entire wild community might already have disappeared.